Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll start the Chulin daf Mem Tes. We are going to begin on Mem Tes Amud Aleph, the fifth line from the top. Hahu mechta, with regarding to finding a needle, nishtakach b'simpoina rab de kabdo. It was found in a large blood vessel in the liver. So as we saw in yesterday's daf, there's a couple of possibilities. It could have traveled through the esophagus, which then the problem is it probably then went through some of the organs, puncturing holes and therefore becoming a treifa. And therefore, because of that, Huna Marbari Durav Idi Tarif. He said, in fact, that's probably what happened, and therefore, because of that, it's going to be a treifa. So we have that concern. Rav Adabar min Yomi machshir. He says, no, it's kosher, because it's possible that it was swallowed through the trachea, even though, of course, that's not the normal way, but it went through the windpipe, went through the lungs, and it went through some of the large vessels, and therefore it didn't really puncture anything, and therefore that's why it would not be necessarily a treifa. If you look over here in the book, it says the location of the needle indicates that it traveled possibly to make a treifa through the circulatory system, because it was found in the vena cava, via the trachea and lungs. So therefore, of course, that would be a problem. That would be a reason why it would be a treifa. Okay, so, but again, the fact there's a large blood vessel, that indicates possibly that there was not a puncture, and that's why it's a machlokus. Also, Shiloh Ravina Amrlahu, so he said, Shakilu Galime de Terufoi. Take away this item which is treif. Basically, he's saying that this is not good. Okay. Hahi Kashisa Dishkachach B'mara. Let's say you have found in the gallbladder. Rav Ashi ki avinan be'Rav Kahana imer hai vade simpoinen nakat v'asoy afagav deloy kanavka mirvol hu. It's possible it went through the rovole bahani mili the diklo avol the zesa mivza boza. Maybe it was went through this pointy area. So let's go. First of all, let's go straight into this translation. A pit that was found in the gallbladder. Okay, so what is the din? What are we supposed to do if you find this pit found in the gallbladder? So it says like this. This is a difficult passage to explain. Okay, for a description of the gallbladder's relationship to the liver, so you can see some of these pictures. Rashi apparently learns that a date pit was swallowed into the trachea, traveled to the liver via the vena cava, gradually wormed its way through the liver and entered the gallbladder via its connecting tube, the bile duct. This explanation is difficult to understand, but the Gemara describes the pit as dull-edged and not capable of piercing. If the gallstone is sharp, like an olive pit, we're then concerned that at some point in the past it pierced the wall of the gallbladder, and therefore the animal is treifa. So basically, it will be totally on the status of this, how pointy this gallbladder, the pit is, and if it is significant. And here's over here a picture of the mara of the gallbladder up the top over here. We can see this is the mara within in that area. So again, that's the basic idea. So let's just read this one more time. That we have again this pit in the kashisa dishkachach b'mara. So he said that vadi simpoina nakat vasoy. So it probably, as we see, went in this direction to kavid nakat through the liver. The alderech hakana nechnasa probably went through the windpipe. The derech haveshet nechnasa would have gone through the esophagus in a royal and nak of klum. It wouldn't have been able to make any hole. So he says, Avagav deloika nafka mirvol hu deravole. So it somehow made its, like, it wormed its way through, as it said. Alidei nanua, through like movement, shenanu, like shaking the animal moving around. B'halichase yamim rabim nechasa tamid ma'at ma'at b'makom dochek shen yochel achshav latses. So it continues like moving. B'hanimili dedikla aval b'dezesa. It depends basically what type of pit it is. So if it's from a dekel, a date palm tree, so that's one thing. It's not very pointy, so we're not so concerned. Although the zesa, if it's an olive pit, then mivza baza. So because it's pointy, then it's more problematic. And that's what we said. If the gallstone is sharp, like an olive pit, we are then concerned that at some point in the past, pierced the wall of the gallbladder, making it a treifa. Otherwise, it would not be an issue. Rabbi Yochanan, so Lomanikra Shema Reya. Why does it have that name long? So Shemeira Esainayim, because it causes lighting up of the eyes. Apparently, someone who eats this part of the animal, it's good for one's vision. Iboyulhu Achilu Alidi Simonim. Is it just eating it stam? Or when you mix it up with, let's say, other spices. Tashma Diyam Rav Huna Bar Yehuda Amza Bezuza, a bird, like a goose, costs the amount of a zuz. Vareya Dida, and its lung is Ba'arba, is worth 4. Now, if in fact it's for eating, so Linkat Bezuza, buy the whole goose for $1. V'leichel El Alidei Simonim. You just eat it. So it must be it's together with the spices, because otherwise, if the whole thing is only worth $1, so then why is it that the its reya, its lung is 4? It's because it has spices and it was other things added to it. Okay, inkva reya hecha deme mashmasha yada de tabcha. Talinan or talinan. So let's say we have a hole in the lung. However, it's the place where the butcher is touching it. So in that situation, do we assume that the hole somehow was only created by the butcher's hands, and therefore the hole didn't pre-exist before the shechita? So talinan or talinan. Do we say it was the butcher, and therefore it's not an issue? So Rav Adam bar Nasan oimer talinan. We will be toilet on the butcher, and therefore it's kosher. The Rav Mari Omer lo talinan. Rather, we'll say the hole was actually there from before the shechit, then it's treif. So we're actually lenient. Omer Rav Shmuel bered the Rabbi Avo Abba Mirishi Kalei the Rafram Havi the Omer talinan. So we find that this similar situation happened. And we said that we are toilet on the butcher. Says Rashi, Marishi Kali, Marish Darshinan Mishmaisin L'am, when he began to the Kali, when he was saying a sugya over as a drasha, so they were toilet, and they said that it wouldn't be a problem. So Amrua Kamei the Laha de Mar Shmuel Bere de Rav Mari V'lo Kibul. They didn't accept this. Amr Rav Misharshia Kavasi de Avu de Abba Mastabra. It makes sense to be like the opinion of Abba de Avu de Abba. Dahat Talina B'Zev, because we find elsewhere that they were toilet on a zev. Says Rashi. We saw this in the first parak. Baz zev. If you had this wolf that came, the Nautilus b'nei mayim, and it grabbed hold of the innards of the hechziron. It was returned nekuvin in mamakam neck of knockoff. We don't assume that there was a hole there before, but we assume the hole was created by the zav, and therefore we're lenient. So to over here we're lenient. Morna, when it comes to Rashi, is a toilas, a worm that comes from the lung, and there's a hole. So pligi Rav Yosef bar daisoy banan. Chad Aimer Kodim Shchita Parish, V'chad Aimer Lachar Shchita Parish, that it was after the Shchita that, and then it came out. Yogos Lachar Shchita Parish, and therefore it's not a problem. So if you say that before the Shchita it came out from the lung and there was a hole, that's a treifa. Otherwise it's kosher, so therefore we say we are lenient. Okay, Rav Shimon Aimer Ad Shetin Koif. So he says that puncture must reach the large bronchi. So as let me just read what it says over here. As described in comments in the Mishnah, the kana, the trachea which transports air from the mouth, splits into bronchi, which convey air to the lobes of the lungs. First, smaller bronchi branch off the trachea into the upper lobes, the unos, of the lung. Then the trachea itself splits into two large bronchi, known as the primary bronchi. These enter into the lowest two lobes of the lung, the umos. So again, we have 5 unos, 2 and 3 respectively on the right and the left, and then 2 large ones on the bottom, where they're known as the diaphragmic lobar bronchi. Or Shimon holds that only a puncture which exists into the large centrally located bronchi, the bigger ones, which are called the basin symphonois, renders the animal treifa. So he's more concerned of the larger, bigger ones on the bottom of the lungs. Omer Rabba bar Tachlifa, Omer Rabbi Yomi bar Rabba, Acha Tinkav with Simpoin Gadol. Has to be the large bronchi. So if we look at this picture, just to remind ourselves of what we're talking about as far as lungs are concerned, so we could see the symphonois are over here, the large lobes, not the 3 and the 2 here, but it has to be a hole in the symphonois, which are over here, okay, which is called the secondary bronchi, which are the symphonois, the secondary bronchi. These are the primary bronchi, the Simpoin Gadol, which is kind of an interesting because they're, you can see they're pointing over here because that's where it branches out, but then it branches out further into the larger lobes. So it says lung material of the umois was removed to expose the internal symphonois. Fine. All right. Anyway, so that's what the law is according to Shittas Rav Shimon. Yosef Rav Acha bar Abba Kamei Rav Huna of Yosef Ka'omer Omer Rebbe Moloich. So this din was said in front of him. Omer Rav Yoshua ben Levi halacha Rav Shimon. Yeah, the halacha is like him, that it's only a treifa once it actually goes into these larger lobes. Omer le Molech Arva. This is a Arabian Molech Kamrit. Ein halacha Rav Shimon. So it's like saying this is not like correct. The halacha is not like him, Kaimer. Kisalach Rabbi Zer Ashkache L'Rab Bibi Yosef Kaimer Omer le Omer Rab Molech. Omer Yoshua ben Levi halacha Rav Shimon. Yeah, the halacha is like him. Omer le Chaydamar Da'ana. Rav Chia Barabba of Rav Asi Ikol Inan L'Aser to Rebbe. Molech, that we went to his city, the Omer and they said, E Omer Mar halacha Rav Shimon. Was the halacha taka like him? Is that what they said? The Omer Ein halacha Rav Shimon. Samri bi'at ma biyadcha. What is in your hands? Omer hachim Rabbi Yitzchak bar Ami Omer Yoshua ben Levi halacha Rav Shimon, but Ein halacha Rav Shimon. So it's interesting. So they said the halacha is like Rav Shimon, however, the halacha is not like Rav Shimon, which again, Rav Shimon has this interesting leniency. That it's only once it actually enters into the symphonois, but that's not what we actually say. So again, the puncture must reach the large bronchi. And let's just read this one more time. That again, that the trachea transports air from the mouth, splits into bronchi, which convey air into the lobes of the lungs. First, small bronchi branches off the trachea into the upper lobes. There's smaller bronchi, and then the larger bronchi go into the 2 lobes on the bottom, right? So that is, he says, it's only if there's a hole in those bronchi, not the ones above. And halakha is like, no. If there's a hole in either one, even the ones on the top, that's also going to be problematic. Okay, so that's the basic idea behind that. Okay, so nikva hakeva. Let's say there's a hole in the keva, in the stomach, and as we saw a long time ago, actually maybe not too much long ago, we saw a diagram of the 4 stomachs which compose a cow, and the keva, which is what we're going to be looking at now, is the 4th of the stomachs, you have first of all the keres. They chew grass. Goes into the keres. It goes into the base of kosos, comes back up, and then eventually it keeps going back and forth until finally it will go to the hemses, until the last of the four stomachs, which is the abomasum, abomasum, which is the cava. So that we're talking about now a hole in this fourth stomach. So we're going to hopefully understand this now a little bit more. Okay, so, which is also called the maw. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachman, Rabbi Yeshua, chaylev shall gabli hakeva kohanim nagabo heter. When it comes to the chaylev, there's fat which is around this maw, this fourth stomach. So is it chaylev or is it shuman? Is it kosher fat or is it non-kosher fat? So we say it's good. So Rabbi Shmuel, the Shermim Mishum Avoisav, they said it in the name of his fathers. V'simanech Yishmuel Kahanim Asayil Kohani. Since Yishmuel's a Kohen, so he's going to be lenient like the Kohanim, because basically he wants to be able to be as makel as possible, because he wants this fat to be kosher fat. So he says that the fat which is around the keva is kosher to be eaten. Okay, obviously it's not because he's biased, but that's what he paskins. So he decided Kosav Baruch Hu es b'nei Yisrael. So we know this pasuk in Parshas Naso when it comes to the Berachas Kohanim. Rabbi Shmuel Omer Lamanu, we learn bracha Yisrael mepi Kohanim. There was a bracha given to the Klal Yisrael from the mouths of the Kohanim. Lo Kohanim atzman lo lamanu. However, that we don't see the Kohanim themselves getting blessed from this pasuk. But when it says that I will bless them, Shabi Omer Kohanim mivarchen liYisrael, it means that the Kohanim will bless Israel, the Kodesh Baruch Hu mivarech Kohanim, and Hashem will bless the Kohanim. So we see this again, Rabbi Shmuel, who is always trying to find favor to the Kohanim, saying that Hashem himself is going to bless them. Rabbi Kiva Omer Lamanu bracha Yisrael mepi Kohanim, but mipi Gvura lo manu. We don't see anywhere that Hashem is giving a blessing. Kashu Omer b'ni barachem habi Omer Kohanim mevarchim Yisrael, v'Kodesh Baruch Hu maskim al yadam. It just means that Hashem agrees to what the Kohanim say. El Rabbi Akiva bracha Kohanim enole. How do we know that the Kohanim themselves get a bracha? So Menachem Yitzchak, because the pasuk says mivarechecha, mivarechecha, that Hashem said in beginning of Parshas Lechacha to Avram, anyone who blesses you will be blessed. And therefore, the fact that the Kohanim give a bracha, in turn they'll also receive blessing. Umay Messiah Kohani. So what exactly it means that Rabbi Shmuel supports Kohanim? He's basically saying that the Kohanim will get the bracha at the same time as berachas, as the Yisrael. Says Rashi, "Avol berachas Yisrael, the hachi adifa the mashma shemavarchin hein im hashar." Okay. All right. Let's look at question 5. This is an easier, hard sugya, easy question here. Rabbi Shmuel, the Messiah Kohanihu. How do we find that he supports Kohanim? First of all, because it says he says that Hashem is going to bless the Kohanim, and we find that they're included in the bracha together with the Yidden, or the fact that he says that he matters the chela, the fats around the keva, around the stomach of the maw, and that the Kohanim are entitled to it because they're entitled to the maw, paw, and jaw, to the Zerah Chaim V'Keva. So Zerah Chaim V'Keva, the keva again is the fourth stomach, which is known as the maw. Okay, that's Rabbi Gibber's line. The maw, the paw, and the jaw. It's really the maw is the end, right? Well, okay. Anyway, it's the jaw. It's the jaw, the maw, and the paw. Okay, jaw, paw, and the maw. The paw, the jaw, and the maw. Okay, that's actually how it goes. Okay, Rabbi Gibber from my days in Miami. All right, let's move on. So my Messiah lay, fun, we saw that. So what exactly is this statement? So now we're going to start talking about the fats that are found in the animal, and we'll just start off by looking at this picture. When we talk about the chelev and the chasas akedev, so we're going to be looking at this picture over here in a moment. Basically, you can see it says the following Gemara focuses on the fats that cover the intestines and stomachs, and discusses which are permitted for consumption and which are prohibited. In order to properly orient the reader with the layout of the organs and their associated fats, we present a series of photographs. So there's a whole bunch of pictures over here. So we'll get through this. But again, you can see this is the cava, which we're talking about, the fourth stomach. And then you have the chelav hamachases akerev. So you have the fats around here, and it's right next to the dakin, right next to the intestines. Okay, so these are some of the things we'll be talking about. That's also this chelav she'al hakerev. Okay, so that's what we'll be looking at now. Okay, so let's keep on moving. So the pasuk says, "Es kol hachelav asher al hakerev." So when it comes to the fats that are around the stomach, so lahavi chelav she'al gabi hadakin, that comes to include the fats that are al gabi hadakin, which are around the small intestines, that they're forbidden. It's coming to include the fats which are al gabi hakeva, that they are forbidden. So the question is it including the fats around the dakin, around the intestines, that are forbidden, or is it including the fats which are around the stomach? Okay, so in there, obviously we're pretty similar. You can see another picture over here, which I circled because I guess that's something which I also wanted to show you guys. So you can see this again, this picture, which is the chelav hamachases akerev, right? So the chelav which covers it, and which is near the dakin, near the small intestines. Okay. All right. So let's keep on moving. Verminhi. So again, the question is, which chelav, which are considered to be non-kosher fats, at these different parts near the stomach, near the intestines. So verminhu esa chelav asher al hakerev. Rav Shimon Omer ma chelav hamachases akerev. Just like the fats which cover up machases akerev, which is called over here the greater omentum, omentum, korum v'niklov. There's a thin membrane that can be peeled off. Av kol krum v'niklov. So too, any time that you have something which has a membrane and it can be peeled off. So that's why these fats also fall into that category, because they can be peeled. There's a membrane that can be peeled off. So therefore, they'll also fall into that category, which is why, again, according to Shitas, that's what he holds. Okay, Rabbi Kiva, Oimer, Rabbi Kiva, who said it's including chelav al gabi hadaka by the keva, by the stomach. He says ma chelav hamachases akerev toisif kurum v'niklov. So when it comes to the chelav, which covers the kerev, so toisif, you could basically take it off easily, this membrane, and it can be peeled. I've called toisif karim v'niklov. So toisif means it's like cloaked. It says Rashi, he's simlasai. It's like almost like a garment that cloaks over it. So the question basically is that it seems to be a shtickle of a steer over here in his shita. Exactly what the din is when it comes to these types of fats. So this is where the question arises. Exactly what is what over here? How to ascertain and how to determine which fats are acceptable. So let me just quickly look over here. Chelav shel gabi akeva. The keva, which is again the fourth stomach, has a long curved shape. Two fats are attached to it. On the inside of the curve, there is a line of attach, which is going to be its yetera, which we'll see is one part of the curvature. We'll see that more on the next Amud. Is a line of attachment to the lesser amentum. The outer curvature to the attaches to the chil hamachasas akerev. Okay, so it's a little bit complicated over here. I'm not going to read all this. There's like a lot of pages here. So, and then he says, includes the fats that are on the intestines. The dakin again are the dakin are the intestines. The fats that are on the intestines refers to the fats. Again, that's what it's referring to. Fine. So that's the question. Let's see what we have over here. Just like the fats that cover the innards has a membrane which can be peeled off, so too all prohibited fats have a membrane which can be peeled off. The sheet-like expanse of fat that surrounds the innards has a thin membrane on its outer surface which can be peeled from the fat. The same is true for the lesser omentum, the fat that covers the hemsase, which is another stomach. The sites where these sheets attach to organs are also prohibited, for the peelable membrane exists there as well. Rabbi Kiva says that just as the fats is draped, which is taisif, and has a membrane and can be peeled off, so Rashi comments that taisif, draped, is the Aramaic equivalent to, like, similar to a garment. This indicates two separate qualities. One, the fat is not composed of many small pieces, but rather is a single continuous sheet like a cloth. Two, just as a garment, so that's an important detail. And two, just as a garment is easily removed from the body, so too the fat must merely drape over the organs it covers. It must at least peel off easily. So that's the idea behind what that's referring to. Okay, so it's as like one piece as opposed to like small little pieces is the idea of taisif. Okay, so sholach Ravin mishmei Rabbi Yochanan kach he haitzah shel Mishnah the epoch kamaisa. Actually, what we should do is turn it around, and the first opinion we should flip around. So ma'achos is afchas kamaisa v'chabasarayso. So maybe the second one should be flipped. Shani hacha kibon dekatani ma davka. Since he said this, it must be specific. Yihachi Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Kivahi. Tom Rav Nachman Yitzchak Shemer Misham Abaysav v'leilu svirulei. Okay. Amarav chelev tahar. When it comes to fat which is kosher to be eaten, so we say that's saisim. That can close up a hole. That is more of a sealant, of more of an adhesive. Tameh, when it comes to non-kosher fats, so eno saisim. So that will not have the capacity to clog up holes. As Rashi says, going dakin within the intestines, if there's a hole there, and there's fat which clogs it up, this hole, it could be kosher. The chel of tahar oduk, because this fat somehow has the capacity to seal the hole, but that's only if it's chel of tahar. Even when it comes to chel of tameh, chel of tameh also has the capacity to be a sealant. Chelev chayamai dafka oimer chel of tahar saisim v'hainami taharhu. So maybe do we say that any kosher animal or kosher fat is a sealant, even when it comes to a chaya as well? That also will be a sealant for a hole. O dilma mishum demahadek v'hailo mahadek. Maybe it's because we know that when it comes to a behema, that fat has the capacity to puncture, to be a sealant. But a chaya, which is it doesn't have the same capacity to do so. So maybe not. Says Rashi, mechuber yafa b'basar. So when it comes to basar of a behema, that chel of that fat, which is tahar, does provide a good sealant, but maybe not by a chaya. So Omer Baye mighty boily. What was the question? The he the shari b'achila. I understand you ought to eat it. Aduki lo mahadik. So it's not going to attach. So hahu nekev the stama. This hole in which there was a hole in which got sealed up, chel of tummy by non-kosher fat, which Taki would think should not be a sealant, or actually is a machlokas. So does it work or not? By this non-kosher fat. So the also committed the Rabbi, I'm a Rabbi l'may nechashlo. What are you afraid of? Chada the home Rav Sheshes chel of tummy nami saisim. First of all, okay, it was a machlokas. However, Rav Sheshes said that it does work, right? Even when it comes to non-kosher fats, it does seal. But furthermore, hatar chasal mamanim shel Yisrael. You can understand. We know that the Torah in general has mercy and compassion. That we're very careful, just like as Rashi says, that what we instruct when it comes to a saras in the home, we say first move all the kalim, and then only afterwards will he say it will be tameh, because he doesn't want to make all the items and all the kalim inside tameh. So we know that we're generally pretty lenient when it comes to this. We want to make sure everything is okay. So too, we're going to pass like Rav Sheshes. Omerli Rav Papal Rav the Isur Deraisa. So we're talking about an Isser Deraisa over here of possible trephus. Yad Amrit Hatar Chasal Ma'on Shel Yisrael. So what does that mean? When it comes to violating Isser Deraisa, we're going to start coming up with this kula. So Min Yoimin Kin Duka Igal. So he sold some jugs. Igale Bistaka the Dovsha. And let's look at Rashi over here. Moicher Kadim, like he was the seller of jugs. Besadka, says Rashi, Kachel Davash, jugs of honey you're selling. So this is like just an expression over here that he's saying, okay, this is the din. Also made a Rabbi Amar Rava Lamai Nechashli. So again, what are you afraid of? Chada. So did non. So 1 second. So Minyaimi Kamadura Igalile Besidka de Davsha. So again, he sold these jugs and there was honey stuck to it. So he said, what's the problem? First of all, Chada did non Shleishamash Kamasurim Misham Gilui. There's 3 liquids what we're afraid that if they're out in the open that a snake put some venom in it. But there's only 3. The 3 W's. Hayayin, Vamayim, Vacholov. This is how I remember it. When it comes to wine, W. Water, W. Chalav, white milk. Bashar Kol Hamashkim Mutar. All other liquids are mutar. So there's no reason to be concerned about honey in general. So there's not much you have to be afraid of. So therefore, you're not going to be afraid. So again, if someone who sold jugs and there was honey, which is revealed, so it's okay. So Rav Nachman, Rav Shimon, Rav Shimon, you want to pass in like this. So what are you talking about? If there's an issue of possibly poison in this honey, so we're going to be lenient because we're going to be lenient over here. How's that a reason to want to say the halacha is like that? Says Rashi. So Rav Shimon, so what do you mean this din of Rav Shimon? So what is that? So the Sanya Chamisha in the Misham Gilui. There's 5 things. There's no issue of Gilui. Sear, brine, v'chaim is vinegar, shem and oil, v'davash umorius. And one of them is honey. Rav Shimon Aimer Avhein Yesh Mehem Mishum Gilui. There's also an issue of Gilui when it comes to them. In other words, Davash, there could be an issue. So Rav Shimon is a reason to be strict. He holds that it could actually have venomous poison in there. Rav Shimon Anir Isi Nachash. I once saw a snake. Shesasat Seer, but Seer was drinking this brine. So Amalo Shatya Havi. It was actually a crazy one. Then Mavin Rayim in a shaitan. So maybe it was some not normal snake, but normally they would not drink seer. But again, maybe you should be chayshish of a crazy snake, right? Normally oilemias, but seer. Maybe at least to agree when it comes to seer. The whole Papa of Rav Huna of Yeshua of Rabbanan ki havi lahu gilui, when they would have something which was open for a while. Shadule but seer. They used to pour into it seer. So Malay oideli miya badvash. Maybe at least you should also agree with honey. It's not a problem. Rav Shimon ben Lezer koi kavasi, because he holds like midasanya. The chenoy Rav Shimon ben Lezer also badvash. He actually says the honey isn't issued. So Rav Nachman chalav ha'asoy fine. Chalav ha'asoy, that's it. Chalav ha'asoy koiva. Let's say you have fat which is like a hat. In a soisim, that will not close up the hole. Hey, where is this? Amalei chiti de karkasha. This is referring to by the rectum. Yermala tarpasa, the liba. It's by the heart. So if we look over here, again, we're talking about these whether it's a seal. Rashi explains the permissible fat adheres very strongly to the host organ. Forbidden fat, however, merely drapes. It's just taisif. It's just a taisif. It just drapes over the organ. It doesn't really stick into it. It is easily peeled from it. It therefore does not create an adhesive seal. So if something can easily peel off, then it's not really going to be very, very helpful for us. Now, the grain-like nodules of fat on the rectum is what we're talking about. The final tube through which the solid waste passes before leaving the body is the rectum. Many small nodules of fat are attached to it. Okay, or the membrane of the heart is a fibrous sac of membrane that encases and protects the heart. It provides a stable and moist environment in which the heart functions. It is molded around the curved contours of the heart and is therefore described as shaped like a hat. So when we're talking about these things, that if you have chalev over there, it's not soisam if there's a hole by the rectum or by the membrane of the heart. It's not going to be very effective. It's not going to help much in that situation. Okay. All right, let's keep on moving. Fine. Omer Rava, Shamaiti mined Rav Nachman Tarti. I learned out from Rav Nachman two things: chimsa ubar chimsa, chad sosim v'chad lo sosim. He said that one of these things does hold up well. These are different types of fats, which is by the keva, by the stomach. One, if there's a hole in the stomach, it will clog it up and it'll be okay. The other one is not okay. I'm not sure which one it is. Rav Huna bar Chanina bar Rav Huna bar Nachman Omer bar chimsa sasam and chimsa lo sasam. Some Rav Tovus v'simanech. The way to remember that is Yafa koyach haben mikoyach ha'av. The koyach of the son is stronger than the koyach of the av. So therefore, the way to remember this is that the bar chimsa, because the son is stronger as a sealant. So high chumsa v'high bar chumsa. What is that referring to, though? What exactly are we referring to? So Tashma, the Rav Nachman inhu michol achli. The people who are in Eretz Yisrael michol achile. They hold that it's chayil of tahar, and therefore they would eat it. Ladidhu mistam nami lo sasam. However, according to you, it doesn't. It's not an adherent. So look at Rashi bitmia. Ladidan b'nei Bavel nihi delo achile lahachi. We don't eat this. Mia machzakina lebechel tahar. It should at least be called kosher fats. Liyoisaisim to be a good seal. Shemamina he deplegi bo b'nei Eretz Yisrael b'nei Bavel karule. So that's what the argument is. Okay. So now, what exactly is this referring to? So we kind of alluded to this before. Fine. So adakshasa, which is the fat which is on the outside of the curve, kuliyamulu plegi de aser. Everyone says that part is not kosher. Ki plegi diatra. When it comes to the fat which is attached to the inside of the curve, igadi amri diatra kuliyam. Fine. Igadi amri diatra kuliyamulu plegi de shari. Some say when it comes to the fat which is on the attached to the inside of the curve is good. Ki plegi di akshasum. Maybe they only argue about the fat which is on the outside of the curve. Ki ha di oimer Rav Avi oimer Rabbi Ami mikamsin. That he said the skin can come right off the top of the fats. So again, if you're able to easily peel it off, or as we said, it is just like almost like a cloak. It's taisif that doesn't really clog the hole, which would therefore make it a treifa. Okay, that's where Rashi says bechutz kari akshasa. The akshasa is from the outside of the curve. That's what it's called. Ubifnim oigol kari diatra. When the inside, fine. So why are we saying all this? So if it's the akshas, look at Rashi, when it comes to the fat on the outside of the curve, the bain of bnei Bavel ben Eretz Yisrael, whether you're dealing with Bavel or in bnei Marav, aser. So everyone would hold by the akshas as aser. I feel Rabbi Kiva Yarmil El Taisif, that if it just covers it up, right? It covers the membrane of a niklaf, and it can be easily peeled. That's aser. So the hainami or taisif dami here could easily. All it does is just as a cover. Dami she'enu mechuber. It doesn't really attach to anything. Okay, so that's the reason why the akshasa is a problem, because it's taisif. Ki pligdiatra, says Rashi, but bavel savri like Rabbi Shmuel. Yermakol krum niklaf chaylev tameh. If you could peel it off, then it's tameh. V'hai nami krum v'niklafu, and because it could easily be peeled off, it's not a sealant. However, b'nei Morava, Rabbi Kiva, the boy toisif krum v'niklaf. V'hai lav toisifu. When it comes to the atra, it's not toisif. Even though it's true you could peel it off, but it's not just one simple piece, but it's like multiple pieces. So that's why, according to Rabbi Kiva, because he also requires it to be toisif in order to be treifa, so everyone will hold the akshasa as a problem, because the fat on the outside of the curve is toisif. All this is just covers. However, the atra is the fat on the attached to the inside of the curve. That's something which is not just toisif. It's not toisif. But it is niklaf. So the question is that the fact that it can be peeled, is that really considered to be a sealant? That's the whole point. Everyone says it's mutter because since it's not toisif. Maybe it's a problem because it's kipli akshasa. So I can understand why it should be a problem. Because the skin off the top, you can skin off the top of the fats. Okay. Let's just see a few more lines. So they actually ate it. So we're going to eat it. He was hesitating. So Malay Bavlaat Gum Shadi. So it must be, the fact is that you're from Bavel, and the people from Bavel are more strict, and therefore you should cut it off. Okay, let's stop there. A little shtickle bumpy, but hopefully we got through it. Question 6. Mehem simani hachelev. What are the simanim of the fats that ba'asr bebehem or Rabbi Shmuel or Rabbi Kiva? So we said, according to Rabbi Shmuel, if all you have is, if it has a membrane, it can just be easily peeled. So it's not gonna. So it doesn't. It's not soisim. Right? It doesn't close up the hole, because it could just be easily peeled off. How Rabbi Kiva says you also need toisif. If it just covers it up, and it's not cloaked. So then that's the additional piece. Question 7. Heichen nimsa chel v'akuri diatra. What is the chel, which is diatra, which we said is the fat attached to the inside of the curve? Let's see what it writes. Mikumi be'igul keshes hakeva mebifnim, from the inside of the stomach. Mahu keres so b'man nechlu b'mnei bam b'meretz Yisrael. Im mutter o aser. Why is the atra maybe good or not? So if there's a hole there, so he says that this is something which has a membrane. It is peeled, but it's not kaisif. So the bnei bavel hold that the lo be'inan taisif. Even if it's not taisif, still it could be aser. Just as long as it can be peeled, that's not enough. That's already makes it a treifa. Bnei Eretz Yisrael hold it's only if it's taisif will it become aser, and therefore, because of that, since it's not taisif, maybe it's okay. All right. Hopefully we got all this. This is a shtickle bumpy, but hopefully we got it. Let's look at question TA 17. TA 16. Did I do TA 16? Yeah, we did that yesterday. TA 17. says nikvu hadakin. There's a hole in the intestines. O hakeres on the stomach. Shenikev im kshera kishachel of soisman. If you have it clogged up, so is that good? So chel shel hadakin. When it comes to the fat which is in the intestines, dehu tahar, which we said that fat is tahar soisam akuliyama, because that is kosher fat. So therefore, everyone will hold it soisam, as we said. However, chel shal hakeres on the stomach, that's a machlokes because it's tame. So the chel which is on the keres is tame. The chel which is on the dakin is tahar. So therefore, that's why it's a machlokes, because we saw Rav Sheshes holds that even the chel which is not kosher is still soisam. But everyone holds that chel which is tahar is soisam, and therefore again the chel which is on the dak in the intestines, which is tahar, is soisam l'kuli alma. The chel which is on the keres, which is tamei, there we have a machlokas. Okay, TB 20. Nikvu hadakin o keres. Same question. So hopefully I got it right. Let's see. TB 20. Nikvu adakin shehu tahar kosher him soisman as a nekev kosher, right? That's kosher l'kuli alma. Aval hanekev hakeres shachelev lo kosher lo soisman as a keres. Actually, it's machlokas. Im soisman. V'achein yesh machlokas im kosher. So again, when it comes to the chayil, which is kosher, right, then it's fine. But Rav Shimon says echad zeh soisam. So that's the whole point. But chayil tahar is soisam. Chayil which is tamei is not soisam, according to Shittas Rav. However, Rav Sheshes holds that echad zeh is soisam. So therefore, the chayil which is, and if you look over here in this Rashi, chayil tahar soisam could go in dakin, right? The fats by the dakin, by the intestines, it's kosher, right? So it's soisam l'kuli alma. It will plug up that hole. However, tamei enu soisam could go in keres, right? By the fats by the stomach, right? There's a machlokus if it's soisam, since it's tamei fats, right? Or it's not kosher fats, if you will. Adkan.